Red Brick Media. High quality CDs, DVDs, lectures, khutbah, conferences and Quran recitations. All revenue generated supports our dawah work, supported by visiting our store. You can now purchase directly from our site www.redbrickmedia.co.uk.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Among the 7 that the Prophet told us alayhi salam that they would be in Allah's shade on the Day of Judgment is a man who gave money for charity and he concealed it from people knowing about it to the extent that even his left hand does not know what his right hand is spending. Now, it's human nature that we love to be appreciated. We love to be praised. It's human nature that when I do something, I like people to thank me for it. Not with forms of worship, and specifically not with giving charity. So many times a beggar comes and he says, give me for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, and I say, this is 50 riyals. For the sake of Allah, take this, may Allah bless you. What is this? I made a scene out of it. I'm showing off. Allah would not accept this because it has to be sincerely for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. The Prophet tells us that, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, spending money, giving sadaqah, giving charity in secrecy, this extinguishes Allah's anger. Subhanallah. So whenever there's a calamity and you feel that Allah is not pleased with you, extinguish Allah's anger by spending money and charity in secrecy. Conceal it. No one knows about it. Then you will find the result with the grace of Allah. The Prophet told us alayhi salatu wasalam, that this world is for 4 people. One of them is a man that Allah gave him knowledge and wealth. So he is acting upon his knowledge and he's spreading and spending his money for the sake of Allah. The other one is a person who Allah gave knowledge but no money. Yet he says, if I had like the first man's wealth, I would do exactly the same. The Prophet says that they are both in the same level of reward. So having money and spending it is second to none. The Prophet ﷺ used to encourage people to give for the sake of Allah. Let's look at what Abu Bakr did. Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said, every time I try to beat Abu Bakr in forms of worship, I'm unable. He's always up front. So once I looked into my wealth and I chopped it into 2, and I took half of everything that I own. And I came to the Prophet ﷺ and I put it in front of him and I said, O Prophet of Allah, this is for Allah and for His Messenger. So the Prophet looked at me and said, Umar, what did you leave for your family? And I said, O Prophet of Allah, the equivalent of what I've spent, I am spending, which means that 50% of what I own is for you, and the rest is for my family. And the Prophet said, may Allah bless you. Later on, Abu Bakr came with a bigger amount and he put it in the front of the Prophet ﷺ and said, O Prophet of Allah, this is for Allah and His Messenger. So the Prophet asked the same question, Abu Bakr, what did you leave to your family? And Abu Bakr said, I left for them Allah and His Messenger. Meaning that this is everything that I own. Every single thing of my possessions is for Allah and His Messenger. When Umar looked at this and said, I will never compete with you, Abu Bakr, again in my life. Because it's worthless. There's no use in me competing with you because you'll always come ahead and you'll always beat me. Abu Bakr did this 3 times in his life. That is, he gave everything that he owns to Allah and to the Prophet ﷺ 3 times. Sahih Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ once after Fajr prayer said, who among you is fasting? Abu Bakr raised his hands and said, I am, Prophet of Allah. The Prophet said, who among you fed a poor person? And the Prophet and Abu Bakr said, I did, O Prophet of Allah. Now remember, this is Fajr prayer, not the Dhuhr. And then the Prophet said, who among you visited a sick person? And Abu Bakr said, I did, O Prophet of Allah. And finally, the Prophet said, who among you had followed a funeral until it was buried? And Abu Bakr said, I did, O Prophet of Allah. The Prophet then smiled and said, whoever does all of these 4 things in a day, Allah Azza wa Jal will admit him to paradise. He's in Jannah. So charity, feeding the people, being kind to them is something that Allah Azza wa Jal loves, and He loves it most when it is concealed and it is in secret. Ali ibn al-Hussein, ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, may Allah have mercy on his soul. He was named Zainul Abidin. When he died, the people of Medina knew that he was the man who used to come in the middle of the night with his scarf hiding his face, giving them food and giving them money. When they washed him after his death, they saw the traces on his shoulder and his back from carrying the heavy bags of wheat and the heavy bags of food that he used to deliver to different houses of Medina. No one knew who was the night visitor that would generously give without being noticed or his identity being exposed. When he died, they missed that man who used to come to them in the middle of the night, and they knew that it was the man called Zainul Abidin. So, paying charity, being kind to people, and concealing that so no one knows it except Allah Azza wa Jal is one of the reasons that would make you in the shade of Allah Azza wa Jal on the Day of Judgment. May Allah make me and you among those. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم